I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. Tapping into your authentic genius so that you can live the life that you desire. And one thing that I've learned over the years, genius is not born. Genius is made. It's made by tapping into our own intelligence, our own unique qualities that can manifest the kinds of lives that we can imagine. It's really just up to you. And last time I was talking to Becki, simply about taking ownership of your life, creating your own reality. And that's available to everyone, regardless of the situation that you're in. And so if you want to hear more about that one, just go check that last interview with her. But for today, I want to talk about emotional healing because all of us are really emotional beings. I mean, everything isn't seen through the lens of our emotions, moment to moment to moment. And so I love to introduce to you a beautiful human being and who is happily living on the islands. And we'll talk a little bit about that and how she got there. But talking about emotional healing, Becki Rue, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to connect.
So thank you. So this is part two, and this is about emotional healing. And the truth is that, as I like to put it, we're human beings. We have to give ourselves permission to be human. With all our faults and our weaknesses. I mean, there's no such thing that of being perfect. And people are saying you're perfectly imperfect, and that's just BS. The truth is that we have flaws, we have weaknesses, and some of them come from our own traumas. And we've all been traumatized in one way or another, knowingly or unknowingly, with intention or without. And that's not the point. We are victims of misconceptions that we have created ourselves. Yes, with the help of somebody else, perhaps, but everything in life has a meaning, and the meaning that we give it. And I think what's really important for all of us to recognize, it's never about the event itself, but it's the meaning that we give the event. Bottom line is that we're hurt, we're traumatized, and emotional healing is necessary. So I'm excited to hear from Becki, her perspective of what that looks like and how to go about it, because she is one of those holistic healers with wonderful skills and talents that she can share with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, the truth of the matter is when we're talking about, we were talking about creating our reality and and how powerful as human beings we are to really be able to create that. I will say for me, so much of the limiting belief systems that I walked into starting to create my reality, right? Had this big vision, I had this big plan of how I wanted to help and work with other people really step into their own power and start to trust themselves and their own intuition to guide to their physical healing, their emotional healing, and so on and so forth. And as I started doing that work, layer upon layer upon layer of old limiting belief systems, old thought patterns that were really preventing me from moving forward, started to arise and started to bubble up. And, we all, like you said, we all have some pain in our history, right? Some more than others. Some have had a real tremendous amount of trauma and emotional discontent and in really difficult life situations. And the truth of the matter is, no matter where on the spectrum our experiences lie, there are things that prevent us from moving forward in that way, and behaviors that repeat, that prevent us from growing into really who we're here to be. And so for me, it started, I definitely, I tell people a lot of times that my old story is, right? My old story is I was raised by a single mother with a severely mentally ill and addicted father who was dangerous at times, to say the least, and had a series of uh, abusive relationships. There was a whole litany right, of things that I attached to in my identity as I was coming into adulthood. And the truth of the matter is, all of those things, all of those experiences really gave me the insight and enough pain to reach out at a certain point and look for support. Right. And so, I definitely did a tremendous amount of therapy, counseling with different various counselors. I did some EMDR work with one therapist around specific trauma. I've worked with coaches. I've worked in different, kind of support group communities. I have, since my mid 20s, been seeking support and healing from those emotional wounds. Now, for some years, definitely there was the bulk of releasing and really starting to understand where I came from, why I was in the world the way I was, and really making a decision to detach from that identification with that victim, right? But also to learn how to reparent myself in a way that felt supportive and allowed me to have the wings that I needed to go where I needed to go. The support people that have come into my life and that I have sought out really are to be attributed, in my opinion, with the fact that I'm able to create my reality today, right? And I recognize now when things come up, this is that old little girl. This is that old wounded little girl, right? And I understand that. And I've been given so many tools over the years to really help me learn how to move through and navigate the world in a different way and a more empowered way that's more aligned with me. And one of the things that really drives me today is understanding that we as a society don't talk about a lot of our past hurts and our traumas. And people are like, oh, I had a totally normal childhood and everybody thinks everything's completely fine and we just like move forward. But the reality of it is there are things that are really preventing us from being able to fully align with who we were put on this earth to be. And so talking about the emotional aspect of healing is something very near and dear to my heart because I think it's one of the most powerful places and holds the key to kind of next level consciousness for me.
I love just listening to what you're talking about because so often I hear from people, well, you've got it so lucky, right? Not me specifically, but when they talk about other people. And you've got it so lucky, and look at this, and now you're living on an island, and the truth is people have no clue what it took for anyone to get to where they are today. And what I find is interesting is and this was my own challenge, and I'm going to say this with a little bit of tongue in cheek because I'm denigrating myself in a little bit, and that's this is that I've looked at some of the biggest movers and shakers on this planet and recognize that a lot of them came from very traumatic backgrounds, and they just decided that they weren't just going to accept or settle the status quo. They're the bad card, hand of cards that they received. They chose to do something about it, just like you did. And so you acquired the tools, you went out to get the help, you went out and first recognized that there was a problem and that you were wanting to do something about it, which got you to where you are today. And one great example, like him or not like him, is Tony Robbins. And when you hear his devastating childhood, it's like, whoa. And so where I come in with a little tongue in cheek, I had a perfect childhood, one of those, right? I had a perfect childhood. And so I used that against me, saying to myself, that's why I'm not so successful, right? By many people's standards, I'm very successful, but I know that I can do so much more. And that was my limiting belief, that I didn't have all those traumatic experiences. And that's why I'm not or wasn't where I wanted to be at that time. The truth is that we all have the ability to make those decisions ourselves and to do what needs to be done. And the truth is that those limiting beliefs that you talk about, they originated in an immature brain of a child. And if you talk about, karma and other lives, then that's fine too. But the point is that in our conscious world, we've got these experiences, and therefore we've created these misconceptions, and that's why I say we were victims of those misconceptions. And it's our work to figure it out. Just like you said, they keep on popping up, and that was my old self, and I love that recognition that that person still shows up from time to time, but you've done all the work, and that's the healing. It's acknowledging who you are, not making it wrong. And to answer what you said earlier, nobody talks about it because they're ashamed, and then they get judged. No, you know you know be okay and give yourself permission to be human and grow.
Yeah, so much so. And, to me, connection and identification, not feeling like we're alone in this is such a huge part of it. And kind of normalizing emotional healing, normalizing, people who are really suffering from mental illness and varying. I mean, to me, depression and anxiety in my line of work, I see it almost every day. I'm working with somebody almost every day, and it is so commonplace and has become so normalized. And I feel like, there are just so many layers of healing that are available to us. And when we really start taking ownership of that emotional aspect, that's when things change so much and we start to understand really how powerful we are.
What's interesting also in your line of work, when you talk about, if people are depressed or they have low energy, it's also related to, your lifestyle choices, what you eat, what you don't eat, if you're moving, not moving, if you're sleeping or not sleeping. And I know those are a lot of the things that you teach. But I'm just kind of curious when it comes to this emotional healing, besides having an optimal, physiology and doing the right things. And I know you work with essential oils, which we'll talk about in a second. Again, and besides getting the help, seeking out the help from others, is there some particular thing that you did that actually helped you process, those experiences that you would advise somebody to do now? And then when I hear your idea, I'll share with you mine.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I mean, obviously I sought out support people, which I think is so important. I really believe moving our bodies is key to it too. You mentioned Tony Robbins, and he talks about our physical state so much, and there is something really to be said about what happens in the physiology of our body when we start moving again, right? And so that to me, and whatever physical capacity individuals can move their bodies, to me, that is part of it, is to get moving again. That was integral in mine. I started running. I was actually a smoker. I was overweight. I had a horrible diet. I was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, sleeping pills. I mean, really seriously, when I started my holistic health journey and I started running, I tell people this all the time because I think I was wanting to run away from my life. And running was a very loosely used term. Like I jogged and walked. But anyway, I started moving my body. And what happened was my brain started actually naturally producing some of those chemicals that it needed and was missing. And so I automatically started supporting myself just through that. That gave me enough energy to care about how I was feeding myself and how I was cooking foods, right? And so it just opened one door after another. The oils, the essential oils that I use today to support my physical health and also my emotional health have been some of the strongest, most potent, effective tools I've ever used. And they're so beautifully, intuitively guided, how we work with them. My diffuser's on right now. It's always on. I'm always working with oils. It's just a part of my life that's just kind of integrated in very naturally. But the truth is there are really grounding oils that can help us calm down if we tend to be super anxious. If our mood tends to be depressed or a little bit lower, there are citrus oils we can use to help naturally lift them. So there's so many oils that we can use to help support our emotional well-being. And that's been a really, really beautiful gift to me the last 5 or 6 years since I've been working with them.
It's interesting, and I'm going to try to capture everything I want to share with you because you said a whole bunch of things. First of all, when it comes to essential oils, besides the fact that they're natural, but it's the scent that's critical, because it's that direct link with the very first sense that we develop in embryo, which is the smell. And it's got the most direct link to the brain in affecting the neural networks within the brain that affects our emotions. And so having those right kinds of smells is really key with that. But the thing that about the exercise, which I think is key, and again, understanding that movement is critical to our bodies. We developed over eons based on all the movements that we no longer do. I think about 100 years ago, I think the average number of the average minutes per day was about 300 minutes per day that people were moving around, walking around, that kind of stuff. And now people are sitting down sedentary for 12 hours. But what's important about exercise is that it releases those endorphins. People know that as like the internal opiates or morphine-like products that are mood elevators, besides the serotonins, the dopamines, and testosterone, and all that kind of stuff, which I think is really, really important. The final thing that I want to share, and that is this, for any of those that, want to begin to process, some of the unsettling thoughts or the confused thoughts or the dissonant thoughts in your head, is start journaling. And science clearly shows that journaling is probably one of the most therapeutic processes to be able to dump all that, information on a piece of paper so that you've got the ability to process. And, as a coach, I instruct my clients in a certain process to do that, very, very targeted way to journal so that they can work out things through questions. And so, but I love the fact that, your focus is on holistic healing. For us to become that best version of ourselves, we need that holistic healing. And I love the fact that you're incorporating a business that not only, offers people products with essential oils, as well as other educational materials, but you also help people with a business. So you've got the last word as we wrap it up.
So good. It's so, to me, I will say this, the emotional healing aspect of it has been one of the most powerful movers. It takes courage. It takes courage, and it takes faith, and it takes good support people. And we are safe now. We are fine. We are in a good place, and we are actually in control of how we choose to go back and look at that information, right? If we need to. And so to me, the biggest recommendation I ever make to people when I start to uncover in our work together that there's some serious old trauma or some old emotional wounding is read books, advocate for yourself like you would be advocating for your child or your partner or whomever it is that you love so much. Advocate for yourself to that level, and you will find the resources and solutions and the support that you need, and it will forever change how you walk through this world. So thank you so much for having me.
I love what you're saying. And how do people find you?
My website is beckyrue.com. And then also Facebook and Instagram, you can connect with me there. So easy to connect with me for sure.
Great. And I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success, bringing to you those authentic voices so that you can hear from them their personal experiences as to how they have changed their lives and how you can do that too. And we'll be back with part 3, which is life is really an experiment. So I can't wait to share that one with you. So stay tuned next week and you'll get to find out the wisdom from Becki Rue. Becki, thank you.
Thank you, Bart.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.